We are not a hate group. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group. Israel United in Christ is a nonviolent, Bible-based movement. We do not advocate or condone any acts of violence against any race, ethnicity, or gender. We advise that if anyone hears or knows of any plots to cause harm to anyone or to break the laws of the land, you must contact the proper authorities to bring awareness to any possible threat as stated in Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1.
Hey, shalom Israel, shalom, shalom. Hey, welcome to another edition, Thursday night, Precept upon Precept. We're your hosts. My name is Captain Shem.
Officer Matthew.
Officer Mikael.
Officer Micah.
Hey, so without further ado, you know our new format. Stick around with us. I know it's the late show. Stick around with us, all right? And with that, we're going to cut right to the Watchman Report with Officer Michael with the current events and recent news.
Hey, shalom, Israel, Most High in Christ bless. It's good to be back. All praise the Lord. Let's get right to it. Come on, IT team. South Korea will demand appropriate measures after Pentagon documents leaked. They want answers. They're going to get them, too. Next article. 19 Jacksonville gang members arrested on charges that include murder, manslaughter, gun possession. They wasn't black, y'all. All Esau. They do what they do. They do what they do. Look at them. 19 of them. They say, oh, black people always commit crimes. Look at us, those vagabond Neanderthals. Ted Cruz says school shooting can be prevented if they have armed guards, like in banks, that aged poorly after the deadly Louisville bank shooting. They still shooting up schools. Russian paratroopers are getting thermobaric tank-mounted flamethrowers to make them more deadly after a string of failures, UK intel says. Russia ain't playing. Florida legislator passes a 6-week abortion ban. They were mad as hell after that one. But all praise to the Most High. And this concludes the Watchman Report.
Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Hey, like we do, first and foremost, let's give a shout out to all the IUIC radio stations. What we're doing right now is we are attacking the lies, the defamation, the slander that our enemies are portraying our organization or organized nation as. And I want to give a special shout out to last Sabbath's class with Bishop Kanai. That was an absolute fire class, Bishop. Shout out. And in absolutely research, and it is the motivation behind today's show. So without further ado, we go to the thumbnail and take a look. Officer Mikael puts it together, and he's back in the house, so he's going to explain what tonight's show is based on.
So what we have here is the image of Leo Frank, a murderer and a liar. And we have the false origin of the ADL. They say this is the Anti-Defamation League, but this is a group of gangsters that came together to aid and abet a murderer.
Hey, and also when you look at the it's the B apostrophe NA B apostrophe RITH. That's a so-called Hebrew word. We're going to get into that a little bit later. So that's something that you can see they actually got the 7-piece menorah correct. Usually they have 9. That one is correct. We're going to go into that. And there's a whole, when we say Jewish, we're not saying Jewish because we made that up. They, meaning the so-called white man that calls himself a Jew, he assigns the title of Jewish to himself. Just like the white man created the label white for them. We're just repeating labels, just so everybody knows what we're talking about. We got no hatred towards Jewish people at all. We just know the truth, and we're gonna make it be known. So, real quick, Mikhail, you mentioned about the gangsters. There was an article that I want to go there first. There was an article that was posted. Resident Lardback Gabe, if you can help me out real quick. I didn't mean to say that out loud. It just we was talking about Gabe earlier, and he works at IHOP, and he gets a lot of free food, and that's why he's obese. Sorry for that. Over 45, slip of the tongue. Where's that one? Yes. There was one about the gangsters, right? No? Pull that up. Yeah, number 10. Yes. Okay, so because when Officer Mikhail made this statement about that, you would believe that the Jewish man is according to the Torah, keeps the laws of God, and is upright, right? And that the narrative about black people is that we stole and did whatever we had to do to survive, and we are the least of society. We're the and that's what one of the defendants said about the brothers they were accusing of the crime that Leo Frank actually committed. So let's read this.
Jewish American organized crime. Jewish American organized crime initially emerged within the American Jewish community during the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
So just to be clear, many times people get this confused, and including myself until I really got into about 10th grade high school. The 19th century is 1800 to 1899. The year 1900 begins the 20th century. The 21st century began the year 2000. So we are in, right now, the 21st century. It's 2023. So when you hear 19, this was the 1800s when Jewish American organized crime started. Just to be very clear, and a lot of people don't realize that, they just didn't get introduced to history from a perspective of timelines. All right, so read on.
It has been referred to variously in media and popular culture as the Jewish mob.
So wait a minute. So the Jewish people have a mob? Now, we're reading this out of Wikipedia, and people might say, well, that's anybody can add to Wikipedia. Well, then why do so many people reference it? So we're just going to use this. Read on.
Jewish mafia, kosher mob, kosher mafia, and kosher nostra, or Uzbek Shitsk Yiddish. The last two of these terms are direct references to the Italian Cosa Nostra.
Cosa Nostra, that's a very big term. You heard it in the 80s a lot. Read on.
The former is a play on the word for kosher, referring to Jewish dietary laws.
Okay, so we're going to stop here. We just wanted to show you, Mikhail pointed that out, and we wanted just to show you that there are Jewish organized crime. So don't let people think when you hear Jewish people that they are all for the laws of God. No, they've got criminals and Jewish people too. So tonight we're gonna be going into the trial, the actual primary sources of the Leo Frank trial. But I want to start with the narrative they put in some of the YouTube videos you will watch and the Wikipedia links, and they would have you to think that this guy was framed. This guy was innocent. And we're going to start. Can we get Jonathan Greenblatt first? 'Cause I'm going to go back to him about 3-4 times. Jonathan Greenblatt is either one of two things. Either he is a blatant liar or he does not know how to research and he's ignorant as hell. And I don't know which one. If you're the president of the ADL, you're supposed to be sharp or what? Well, he is sharp enough if he's that good of a liar.
I'd say blatant liar. He obviously called a white man a black Hebrew Israelite.
Right.
I mean, you know.
Right.
A white kid on Staten Island shot at a Jewish man and his son, and he said it was a black Hebrew Israelite. I mean, it was clear on camera a white kid.
Hey, we gotta get that. We're gonna before the end of the show. We're gonna get that because we have. If we can find the video of him actually in court in handcuffs, and you could see that he is not a so-called what they say a black Hebrew Israelite. He was a Caucasian. That he did a hate crime because Israelite Christ, we are not a hate group. We don't advocate violence to anybody. Okay, can you get that for me, please?
It was founded in 1913 after a Jewish man was lynched. He'd been falsely accused of a crime.
Stop. So now, first, now rewind it again. I'm gonna show you something. This is the problem with black people. This is how you know that Charlemagne doesn't control anything. If this was a black station with black ownership, we could stop and fact check this dude, and he wouldn't get past the first 5 minutes without somebody who had some sort of history and conscience of the black community not let this guy come and run his mouth without, what's that word, when you can run your mouth without any reprimand,
Without consequence.
without reciprocity, I think it's called. Yeah, like he could just say whatever he wants, and we're just going to believe him hook, line, and sinker. So rewind it again.
It's the oldest anti-hate organization in the United States. It was founded in 1913 after a Jewish man was lynched. He'd been falsely accused of a crime, wrongly convicted, and ultimately...
Those are both lies. Number one, he was not falsely accused. He was rightly accused, and the preponderance of evidence overwhelmingly convicted this man of murder, and he appealed it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States denied his appeal. So what the hell is he talking about? This guy's a damn liar. He's a straight up damn liar. Let's think about it real quick. This stuff pisses me off. How the hell you lose a trial, you appeal, it goes to the Supreme Court. Surely if you was innocent, you get off. And the Supreme Court, now what they did is they convicted him, they held up the charges. Instead of giving the death penalty, they gave him life imprisonment. Still convicted of rape and murder. That's the next worst thing you could get. The Supreme Court, this guy's lying on the U.S. Supreme Court decision. And the thing is, nobody gonna check this dude. That's what we gotta check. This guy, listen, any of you, let's say for example, you are so-called apologetic, let's say you're a so-called Christian on here and you just want to scoff. What we're saying is undeniable. This guy is lying straight up, and we gonna prove it. He's a liar. Oh, so man.
No, I wanted you to get that out, Cap, because he said that he was falsely accused, right? But when we go into the court documents, right, he wasn't even accused. There was 2 black workers there. They automatically put the blame on those 2 black workers. No white person came to their defense ever, not one single time. And because of the overwhelming amount of evidence against Leo Frank, that's how they got to be like, oh, wait a minute. These Negroes don't have anything to do with this. This is you. That's how they came to the conclusion. They didn't falsely accuse him because he wasn't even accused at first. We'll get into that later, though.
So he's saying, he says falsely accused, right? And that's why there's a rap song, is from the early 90s. I think it was Humpty Dumped, the dude that we used to use the fake nose. He said, blame it on the black man. What the heck? Something like that. He was, forget the damn brother's name. We used to wear raccoon. Shock G. Raccoon tail, cornball with a fake nose. But anyways, there's an old saying, blame it on the black man, what the heck. We were always the scapegoats for everything in society. And in 1913, the janitor that found the body, I can only imagine what was going through his mind. He's like, damn, no matter how this looks on me, they're going to try to do something to me. And he got a family at home. Probably the only job he could find was being a janitor, wiping floors up. And even then, it's like, so we're going to get to that tonight, but let's play on.
The mob tore him from his jail, and they hung him from a tree.
No, stop. That part is true. 2 years after the trial, they broke into the prison. These were the residents. Some were sheriffs, some were, and they did break in, and they strung them up. Well, to us, it's not shocking because there were tens of thousands of black men and women and children that were strung up. Only one documented Jewish man, so they don't really. This is a shock to them. It's not a shock to us. People that in here right now have family members related to us that have got lynched in this room right here. Okay, we got personal stories generations back of what happened to our people, And that pain is still with us to this day. That's why the Bible is so real to us. 'Cause we understand the pain, because the pain is right here. And when you go at your job and you still get racially profiled, you still got to get disproportionately criticized at your job. It still happens to this day to men in this room right now. Okay, we are the lost sheep. We are the ones that have no shepherd and no protector. Well, now we do. We know Christ and we the Israelites, but our people in general, we lost, man. We do not have a guide. We don't have anything of no power. We can't be racist. We don't have power to be racist. Okay? Drop that. Get me. We're going to get to the case real quick. But I'm trying to paint the narrative. Now, hold up. Gabe, I'm going to have you scroll down before we get to the case. I want you to get me, there's two things I put up. Bear with me. I want to look at number 18 and 19, because this is what will happen is you'll go to Wikipedia, and after 18, 19, get me Wikipedia on deck with Leo Frank. This is what you may find if you were to do a search in initially researching this. And this is what they put out there because they think and they believe that most people will not go into what we're about to go into tonight and actually look inside the pages and pages and pages of court documentation and evidence. All right? This is why people would say the things that we're going to hear.
Murder from Georgia's past comes back to life. The tragedy of Leo Frank and Mary Fagan is revived when the Fulton County District Attorney began to form what he calls a conviction integrity unit. Many may recall the details from 1913, even today.
So
Little
quick,
Mary Fagan.
This is Mary Fagan, right? She was 13 years old, 14. Mary Fagan, her father died before she was born. And what happened, listen, by the way, she's Esau, but nonetheless, we're going to tell she was a victim of another Jewish man. But what happened is she had to take a job in a factory as a teenager, working at a pencil factory, and she was working over 50 hours a week, making 10 cents an hour or something like that. And so one of the things with the time was children were working these excessive hours in these factories. And this was an issue of the time, all right? So just keep that in mind in the background. So when she was raped and murdered, okay, it brought a lot of attention to the town of Greater Atlanta, and it made it all the way to national. New York, the New York Times picked this up. This was a big-time case at the time. So when Jonathan Greenblatt said that and ran his dumb, lying mouth, you don't think that people are going to research you and find out what you're saying is a lie? But this is what we're going to show. We're going to prove it tonight. Officer Matthew's going to be digging into this thing. Read, play.
Details from 1913, even today. Little Mary Fagan raped and strangled in the factory where she worked, last seen alive by factory superintendent Leo Frank. His trial roiled the nation with hatred stoked by race, gender, and religion. When the Georgia governor commuted his death sentence, an angry mob kidnapped him from prison and lynched him in Mary's hometown of Marietta. Tonight, Mary Fagan's namesake reveals to CBS 46 special assignment reporter Sally Sears how it affects her life to this very day.
It won't go away.
Mary Fagan Keene has lived with her namesake's horrible death since she was 13.
My science teacher in 8th grade, Mr. Henry, said to me, "Are you by chance related to that little girl that was murdered in Atlanta?"
And that is when the pain of being Mary Fagan's heir began. The boys in her class teasing her about being a murder victim reincarnated.
There's something that was missing about what was brought out about Leo Frank. Rewind the whole thing. We're going to listen. Remember, I'm going to give you a clue. There's something that's missing about Leo Frank, a fact that was missing. And this is what they do for white people. Okay? This is what they do for white people and their heirs and their place in history.
A conviction integrity unit. Many may recall the details.
It started off by saying the whole thing with this black woman that dyed her hair to look more acceptable to white people is that she it started off by saying a conviction integrity unit. So from the beginning, you're like, well, the person that was allegedly convicted, there's the integrity is to be challenged, meaning it's not credible. That's how they start the article off. Play on. I figured I want to see me, please.
Back to life. The tragedy of Leo Frank and Mary Fagan is revived when the Fulton County District Attorney began to form what he calls a conviction integrity unit. Many may recall the details from 1913. Even today, little Mary Fagan raped and strangled in the factory where she worked, last seen alive by factory superintendent Leo Frank. His trial roiled the nation with hatred stoked by race, gender, and religion. When the Georgia governor commuted his death sentence, an angry mob kidnapped him from prison and lynched him in Mary's hometown of Marietta. Tonight, Mary Fagan's namesake.
The point is, they did not say he was guilty. They slid. I'm still saying this. They slid by it. They said his conviction, and you're like, okay, but then they start off with the conviction integrity unit. He was found guilty of murder and rape of a, matter of fact, number one, it's child rape. That's the first thing. Number two, he murdered her in cold blood. And number three, it went all the way. I want you to understand something, y'all. If they had hillbilly backwoods trial, the Supreme Court would have looked at things and said, nope, this was wrong. It made its appeal to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, the only thing they did is they turned the death sentence away to a life in prison. So at all levels of court, the highest court, he was a murderer. And she's coming on with a stupid damn straight hair. And now the public is like, this guy's the victim. It's amazing. This is amazing how the white man gets treated in America. Whether you're Jewish, whether you're French Caucasian, they get privileged beyond belief.
Oh yeah, Cap, like with Trayvon Martin, they said, oh well, not Trayvon Martin.
Yes, Trayvon Martin.
The other kid.
Mike Brown.
Tamir Rice. They said he had traces of marijuana in his system at the time of his death, right? Then the Edomite kid who shot up a bunch of people, they said, oh, he had a concussion before and he was troubled. What? So the victim gets painted as some sort of drug using, good for nothing, and the actual murderer is painted in a light of, oh, well, we need to have sympathy because he had a concussion. That's how they do.
They said the one that was bullied, he was bullied when he was like in kindergarten or something, so that's why he went back and shot up the school.
The school in Texas.
Yes.
Right.
Y'all got to see this. And, you know, it's amazing because it goes back to what Jonathan Greenblatt actually tried to pin murders on the Israelites, on the so-called black Hebrew Israelites, as he says. So where were we? We done with that? Okay, play on.
CBS 46 special assignment reporter Sally Sears, how it affects her life to this very day.
It won't go away. So
Mary Fagan Keene has lived with her namesake's horrible death since she was 13.
My science teacher in 8th grade, Mr. Henry, said to me, "Are you by chance related to that little girl that was murdered in Atlanta?"
And that is when the pain of being Mary Fagan's heir began. The boys in her class teasing her about being a murder victim reincarnated. She went straight back to her father.
"Is it true that there's another little Mary Fagan?" And I swear to you, he stood back and turned whiter than whiter could be and said, "Who told you that?" And he said, "Tomorrow when you go back to school, you tell Mr. Henry that, yes, you are related and you are the namesake and great niece of little Mary Fagan."
The infamous trial and later lynching of Leo Frank are captured in the neat files in her bedroom. Yet a century of doubt about Frank's guilt is here too, and in the Georgia archives where the Leo Frank story lives on. I found here photographs the New York Times staged but never published, showing an alternate theory of the murder. The staging shows a model of Mary pushed down a hole into the basement, knocked unconscious, attacked and strangled by Leo Frank's so-called accomplice, Jim Conley,
And real quick,
the star witness against Frank.
You're going to hear three names. You're going to hear Leo Frank, Jim Conley, and the other brother's name is, it'll come to me a little bit later on. There's another older night watchman. We're going to get to him a little. I think this is it on that, or is there more? Yes, please.
My great-grandmother and great-stepfather were at the trial every day.
Mary Fagan Keene recoils from these photographs. Convinced of Leo Frank's guilt, she is wondering if her own research into the case was worth publishing.
I have the DNA in me, and when I have questions about it, I'll go to Mary's grave and ask if I am to get involved. And I always receive a sign that tells me yes.
Her confidence leads her to protest the district attorney opening this case again.
I think I would be very sad if they exonerated Leo Frank without the Fagan family involvement, but then I will push the world to know that we weren't involved in it.
It is hard to imagine, after a century of fascination with this case, that the world will ignore her voice. I'm Sally Sears, CBS 46 News.
You can show a picture of Leo Frank and Jim Conley together. Jim Conley it's amazing how that they can put this black man, he had nothing to do with this. This dude was under this guy's, the guy on the left, the white guy, Leo Frank, was his boss. He had no power. The black man had no power. And he used this brother, and then they want to show his face as if he has something to do with the murder. No, he was in a circumstance where he was the subservient underneath this guy. He was the boss. He was just trying to keep his job and do what he had to do. And now they got this brother's picture like he had some sort of association. Not at all, okay? He did not strangle her. He did not rape her. He did not murder her, okay? So we got to keep that in mind.
The thing that Leo Frank had over Jim Conley was that Jim Conley was in debt to him, like with money. He used to borrow money from Leo Frank a lot because Leo Frank was in charge of the money at that pencil factory.
Right.
And he used to always go to him for loans, and he'll pay him back and stuff like that. And then a gift destroyed the heart. He'll do something for him. Leo Frank will do something for Jim Conley, because we're gonna get into it. Leo Frank was a devious person, and well, I don't want to spoil it, but Leo Frank was very devious, and Jim Conley was in debt to him. And the other black man, the night watchman, his name was Newt Lee.
That's right.
Newt Lee. That was his name. And he tried to frame Newt Lee first.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tried to frame a white man that got fired from the pencil factory, and he tried to frame James Conley. He tried all of that. It was premeditated, this entire court case.
That's right.
You'll see the pieces come together.
And we're probably going to have to do more than one show on this because there is a lot of primary documents that we were able to pull up. They made the archives public now, so you can. But now, is that it on that? 19, real quick. And the reason why I'm going here is because this is what you're going to see if you do just a quick layer research. You're going to walk away saying, well, you know what? Maybe this black guy did have something to do with it. You're going to leave with questions. Integrity, conviction, integrity. Maybe this. No, you got to really dig into this. Next video, and then we're going to get into the trial.
They're the fault lines, I think.
After this, Wikipedia, Leo Frank, and then we're going to read the first, and then we're going to move on.
Around which the culture wars revolve. And what you saw in the 60s was an alliance of the Protestant ruling class, the WASP, the Yankee, and the Jew, symbolized by groups like the ADA, Americans for Democratic Action. And they waged war on the Catholics in the North. And a variation on that, I have a whole series in a series of chapters in the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit on the Black-Jewish Alliance. And that had real significance for the South.
Pause real quick. He mentioned something. He's trying to make the connection about the Black-Jewish Alliance. The Black-Jewish Alliance. And what we're going to find is that they tried to use this to form the ADL as if that the Jewish man suffered this similar fate as the black man. But like Officer Matthew pointed out, this so-called Jewish man, he was a president of, I'm going to get the word in a minute. We're going to go to the article after we start the case. But he was the president of an Atlantic chapter. And what he ended up doing is he tried to pin it on 2 black men. So the anti-defamation, his inception of the way the ADL formed was him trying to defame 2 black men, literally. And this is why when you see Alan Greensplat lie like that, I would pray that if somehow we could get Bishop Nathaniel on the Breakfast Club. But those of you who have any type of clout, please, somebody set up get Bishop Nathaniel on the Breakfast Club and let him have no filter and be able to speak on a public platform. I'm telling you, man, they don't want that. They will not allow that. Play on.
Beginning with the Leo Frank trial. At the time, this is 1913, we're talking about Mary Fagan gets raped and murdered. She works in a pencil factory in Atlanta. And the Jewish factory superintendent is arrested. Well, I mean, at this point in the South, Jews basically don't exist. Who are they? There's no Jewish migration for the most part. They're all up in New York City. And so as the trial goes on, there's a black suspect, Jim Conley, and this is as they're emerging from the Klan period, emerging from the redemption, and they're trying to be good citizens, and they're trying to get away from lynching, and they're trying to have trials here, and they're priding themselves on this trial, and suddenly the New York Jews, launch this publicity campaign and start saying this is the next Dreyfus case, and this is the beginning of the Jewish attack on the South.
So, again, he's trying to paint a picture, and he never assigns guilt. The facts were that he was convicted of murder and rape. And yes, okay, he had mob justice done to him, which is wrong to lynch somebody. You're supposed to have justice in the court of law. They overturned it to give him life imprisonment, and then the mob at the time gave him mob justice, which, again, we don't agree with, taking the law into your own hands. But that's what happened. So, again, wherever you see this general history, if you watch a YouTube video for a short period of time, read a couple articles, you're going to, if there's question as if, did he even do it? Or it's almost like he's presumed still to be innocent. And that's what you're going to get. That's why you got to research it. Now go to Wikipedia, and then I'm going to turn the show to Officer Matt. And Officer Matt's going to start pulling up the actual case files.
Hey, Cap, what that guy said in there was, that stuck out to me, they didn't even know he was Jewish. So Jewish people didn't even exist. Like they were all in New York. Like he wasn't convicted because he was Jewish. He wasn't lynched because he was Jewish. He just so happened to be Jewish, and he committed a crime and was lynched. And the Jewish people that was in New York didn't like that. One of their friends down south got lynched, and they decided to use their power that they had to do something about it. They had no idea. He was just a regular white man. If it would have been any other regular white man, we probably wouldn't even be covering this case right now.
So, and also, when you go into the case, when we get into the case, everybody that was, you can have 2 types of statements in court. You will have to have you're sworn under testimony. You're sworn under oath, right? He refused to have a sworn statement. It was admitted as an unsworn statement, which is, and then what the white people of the town were like, because to your point, they didn't care about that. They saw him as white. Jewish people were seen by Southern whites as white, just a different type of white. So they're like, well, why would this white man, if he's saying he's innocent, why would he not want to swear like everybody else? It was an unsworn statement. And now they're like, wait, this white guy's a different type of white guy. Because back down south is supposed to be the honor of the Southern hospitality, the honor among white men. So that's what got them fired up about this guy. Wikipedia, real quick. Here's some more BS that we're going to read about that's going to leave you with, oh, did he even do something?
Leo Frank. Leo Max Frank, April 17th, 1884, August 17th, 1915, was an American factory superintendent who was convicted in 1913 of the murder of a 13-year-old employee, Mary Fagan, in Atlanta, Georgia. His trial, conviction, and appeals attracted national attention.
So I'm going to show you how slick that they try to change it. So Officer Micah just read his trial. So he went to trial. He was convicted of what? Murder and rape of a minor teenage girl. And appeal. Appeals are, if you do not think you received a fair trial, you can appeal the ruling. He appealed it all the way to the Supreme Court. Why are they including that part? And they initially sentenced him to death. However, there was some minor technicalities of the case. What happened is at the top ruling, they said, you know what? We're going to give him the second worst. We're going to give him life in prison, which is still horrible, right? You have to have major crimes to do that. So now watch how they switch stuff up. Play on, read on.
His lynching 2 years later, in response to the commutation of his death sentence, became the focus of social, regional, political, and racial concerns, particularly regarding anti-Semitism. Today, the consensus of researchers is that...
Wait, stop this. Read this. I want you to read this slow because they just said, I want you to understand something, and then we're going to get to the trial. They just said he was convicted, and he appealed it, and the conviction held. Now, at the end of the paragraph, they leave the reader with, well, maybe all this stuff is wrong. And they'll watch I'm telling you, Esau is slick. Watch what they say.
Today, the consensus of researchers is that Frank was wrongly convicted and Jim Conley was likely the actual murderer.
So Esau can take he listed facts, and then he said the consensus means it's agreed amongst historians that it was wrong. That's what we read in the news article with the sister with the blonde hair. Conviction integrity. Are you kidding me? And now they threw this brother's name. This brother was clear to that. And his name is still being put in it. Do you see how I'm telling you, man? This is why when we say that the synagogue of Satan, this is who they are. How can you be convicted of murdering and raping a girl, a child, and then 100 years later, the consensus is that they believed he was actually innocent? It's amazing. So now, that all being said, I want you to see how they smoke screen it up. You can learn about him. We might come back to that later. Now we're going to go to the actual court documentation. So, Officer Matt, I want you to start where we can start with. Wherever you feel is necessary.
Yeah, we can start from the beginning. Let's see, which one is that?
So while Officer Matt gets loaded up, understand this, that you cannot, that's like saying, if you have a conviction, let's say for example, someone was done wrong. Eventually, if the Supreme Court says the appeal was overturned, then you could say it made it to the Supreme Court. It was new evidence that was found. He was exonerated and set free. You get to the Supreme Court and they uphold your conviction. So how I'm trying to show you that we're dealing with a different type of organization. It is they take truths and they put doubt upon them to the point where now you got people really thinking that this guy he's the victim of society. It's amazing. Go ahead.
It's the revisionist history.
Exactly.
Because they did the same thing with Jesus Christ. They put a seed of doubt out there that he's a black man. Now you question whether he had a skin color. They did the same thing with slavery. Do the slave ships really exist? Yes, they're cargo ships.
Exactly.
All right, so the reason why I wanted to start from the beginning is for those people that are watching that may say, oh, they're just jumping around. They don't know how to read sworn statements in court documents.
Right.
Okay, all right, let's see. Go up. So this is called the brief of evidence. All right. Now the first statement is from Mary Fagan's mother. Okay. When she last saw, read that. I am Mary Fagan's mother.
I am Mary Fagan's mother. I last saw her alive on the 26th day of April 1913, about 11:45 at home at 147 Lindsay Street. She was getting ready to go to the pencil factory to get her pay envelope. About 11:30, she ate some cabbage and bread.
Stop. So, read the next sentence.
She left home at 11:45.
She left home at 11:45. Okay? She was going to the pencil factory to get her paycheck. All right? Keep that in mind.
And actually, just real quick to add to that, they laid her off because something about the supply chain, and they had to lay a certain amount of workers up. So she was coming to get her last check before being laid off.
Yep. So scroll down, scroll down. Go. Right there, the friend. She has a friend that's 14 years old.
George Epps swore for the state, I am 14 years old. I live right around the corner.
Next.
And while we transition, if y'all, what Officer Matthews reading from, y'all can go to the Georgia, GEORGI, Georgia Archives in the virtual vault, let me not slur my words, in the virtual vault. You can look at this for yourself. Go look at all of the evidence that prove without a shadow of a doubt this guy's a murdering rapist. You go look. Don't just take Jonathan Greenblatt's lies. Go look at the evidence. Look at how the Supreme Court said, nope, this dude is guilty. Okay? Look at it for yourself. That's what we're trying to motivate you to look for yourself.
That is, I live down the street. Was that it? No, not the. How are y'all pulling this up? Are y'all pulling this up straight from the link that I posted? Are you pulling it from the link that I posted? Okay, so just hit the next page.
So the arrows, right?
There's arrows on the page. I didn't post every single page because that would have clogged up the chat.
So y'all research for this for yourself. We're trying to get you to understand that we got to research things before we take our enemy's words for it. He will come in and they will lie to you. We got to research this.
I mean, if he was convicted wrongfully, we would have seen it in the court documents. It would have been overwhelming evidence.
On Saturday evening, I have to come at 5 o'clock.
Which page is that? Okay. No, that's not it. Go back. Get out of that. Go get out of that. I need to see what you're seeing. Okay. There you go. That's it.
There we go.
So that's the little boy who knows her that lives right around the corner from her. Go ahead.
From Mary Fagan's home. I have known her about a year. The last time I saw her was Saturday morning coming to town on the English Avenue car. It was about 10 minutes to 12 when I first saw her.
So remember, her mother said that she left the house at 11:45. He's corroborating. It was about 10 minutes to 12 when he saw her. He lives right on the same street. Go ahead.
I left her about 7 minutes after 12 at the corner of Forsyth and Moretta Street. She had on that hat. Trimmed, and things were when I left her. She was going to the pencil factory to draw her money. She said she was going to see the parade at
Elkin Watts.
Elkin Watts at 2 o'clock.
So the mother said that she left the house at 11:45. The friend said, I saw her at about 11:50, and then I left her about 7 minutes after 12 because she was waiting on a car to bring her to the pencil factory. All right.
Officer Matt, real quick.
Yes, sir.
This is excellent. Please, y'all, keep this in mind, right? This trial was a month, and the amount of court documents that are in this archive, you could do a year's worth of radio show on just this trial. The point of this, as Officer Matthew goes through this, these are all actual statements in a court that people went up to testify. These are sworn statements of them under oath, of all the mother's statement, the friend that's 14. There are multiple witnesses that came forward to say about the way that Mr. Frank, what's his name again? I forgot already. Leo Frank, the way that he treated some of the women there. Okay, there are sworn statements by Jim Conley, so on and so forth. And all of that, these are black men in the early 1900s. And at the end of the day, I want to remind y'all again, he got, in Fulton County, he got convicted of murder and rape. He petitioned to the state court in an appeal. That got shut down. They upheld this conviction. He made it all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is another way to say the National Court of America. That got shut down. So all levels were done decently in order according to Esau's court. And this is a white man being judged by a jury of all 12 white men judged his ass.
Yep.
So I'm sure what we're showing, Officer Matthews bringing out, is facts that are under the stenographer and all them. This is all documented. You can look this up for yourself. Jonathan Greenback is a doggone lying, slandering demon. Go ahead.
Scroll down to the bottom. Now, this man right here, Newt Lee. See what they got right next to his name? Colored. So this is the black night watchman that was working at the pencil factory around the time that all this happened. Now, the reason why, even if those of y'all who are watching at home and you're taking notes, I want you to start writing stuff down. All right? Because a lot of this is going to come full circle when we get to Jim Conley's testimony. All right? Read that.
Newt Lee, colored, sworn for the state. On the 26th day of April 1913, I was night watchman at the National Pencil Factory. I had been night watchman there for about 3 weeks. When I began working there, Mr. Frank carried me around and showed me everything that I would have to do. I would have to get there at 6 o'clock on weekdays and
6 o'clock. Remember that time. He would have to get there at 6 o'clock on weekdays.
Not 5 o'clock, not 4 o'clock.
6. All right. 6 o'clock on weekdays and
on Saturday evening, I'd have to come at 5 o'clock.
So, weekdays, 6 o'clock. Saturday evening, 5 o'clock. Keep that in mind. Keep these times in mind. Read. Move the thing.
On Friday, the 25th of April, he told me tomorrow is a holiday, and I want you to come back at 4 o'clock.
So, he told him on Friday that tomorrow, which is Saturday, which he would have to come in at 5, he said, I want you to come in at 4. I got something that I need done. 4 o'clock. Read.
I want to get off a little earlier than I have been getting off. I got to the factory on Saturday. I got to the factory on Saturday about 3 or 4 minutes before 4.
You wonder why you got to stick on time? Because just like that Edomite said in that video, black people are just coming out of lynchings. We're coming out of all types of racial KKK and stuff like that, and we're trying to be good, upstanding citizens. This man was early for his shift. He was 3 to 4 minutes early for his shift at 4 o'clock that Leo Frank told him to be at on Saturday morning when he was supposed to be there at 5. Read.
The front door was not locked. I pushed it open, went on in, and got to the double door there. I was paid off Friday night at 6 o'clock. It was put out that everybody would be paid off then. Every Saturday when I got off, he gives me the keys at 12 o'clock so that if he happened to be gone when I get back there at 5 or 6 o'clock, I could get in. And every Monday morning, I return the keys to him. The front door has always been unlocked on previous Saturday afternoons. After you go inside and come up about middle ways on the steps, there are some double doors there. It was looked on Saturday. It was locked on Saturday when I got there.
So this particular Saturday, all of the doors are normally unlocked. This particular Saturday, the doors are locked. Go ahead.
Have never found it that way before. I took my key and unlocked it. When I went upstairs, I had a sack of bananas, and I stood to the left of the desk like I do every Saturday. I says like I always do, all right, Mr. Frank, and come bustling out of his office. He had never done that before. He always called me when he wanted to tell me anything and said, step here a minute, Newt. This time he came up rubbing his hands and says, Newt, I'm sorry that I had you come so soon. You could have been at home sleeping.
So, Leo Frank says, man, out of character, man, I shouldn't have had you come so early. You could have been at home sleeping. That's that soft tongue that they have.
Right. And remember the doors. This time he's already like, because this is a sworn statement.
Yep.
This is all different today. This is not the standard procedure he's used to. What is his role? He's a night watchman. Hence, another word for that is he's security.
Yep.
That's what. So he's like, nah, wait a minute. This is supposed to be. This is locked. This is unlocked. Why? What's going on? So now, remember, he's a black security guard that works the night shift. And in 1913, you were lucky to have a job in the Deep South. 1913, as a black man, we out of slavery maybe 40-something years. That was still civil rights, black water, colored water fountain, all of that. Just keep this in mind in your back head. And we are going to do, we got to do a couple more shows in this because we are going to make sure y'all understand this. Go ahead.
Yep. So he normally calls Newt up there and talks to him. This time, he busts out the door and he's talking to him all up front. A man of security is understanding that these things are not normal. You showed me what normal is. Now you're operating outside of that normality, and now I'm taking note of everything. Go ahead, keep reading.
I tell you what you do. You go out in town and have a good time.
What did he say? He said, I tell you what you do. You go out in town and have a good time. Go ahead.
He had never let me off before that. I could have laid down there in the shipping room and gone to sleep. And I told him that.
So you got to think about black people. Look, man, I'm not trying to F up. If I go into town, I run the risk of maybe drinking a little too much, and I'm on security, so I got to be alert. I run the risk of maybe getting harassed by some white cop and going to jail. Now I can't go to work because I done got harassed. I can go to sleep in the basement if you need me to. No, I don't want you to do that. Read on.
He says, you need to have a good time. You go downtown, stay an hour and a half, and come back your usual time at 6 o'clock.
His 6 o'clock on Saturday wasn't his usual time. It was 5. Got to understand something. We in court. We lawyers now. His usual time wasn't 6. His usual time was 5. Why did you tell him to come in early? Then when he came in early, you say, you know what, go BS for an hour and a half and, you go have yourself a good time. Because you think dumb Negroes ain't really paying attention. Go ahead.
Be sure and be back at 6 o'clock. I then went out the door and stayed until about 4 minutes to 6. When I came back, the doors were unlocked just as I left them. And I went and says, all right, Mr. Frank. And he says, what time is it? And I says, it lacks two. It looks 2 minutes of 6. He says, don't punch yet. There is a few worked today, and I want to change the slip.
So there was the old timey punch card thing. You put your card in, you pull the lever, it punches the time. 2 minutes to 6 is when he's supposed to clock on. Understand something. This is all calculated. Write that down. If you're writing notes, write that down. He wanted to clock in at 6 o'clock. He said, don't punch yet. I got to change some stuff. Some stuff happened. I want to change the slips. Go ahead.
It took him twice as long this time than it did the other times. I saw him fix it. He fumbled putting it in while I held the lever for him, and I think he made some remark about he was not used to putting it in.
So he's putting Newt Lee's time card in. All Newt is doing is holding the lever so he could punch the time. He's holding it in like, oh man, I'm so not used to this. I'm not used to doing stuff like this. Go ahead.
When Mr. Frank put the tape and I punched and I went on downstairs. While I was down there, Mr. Gant came from across the street from the beer saloon and says, Newt, I got a pair of old shoes that I want to get upstairs to have fixed. I says, I ain't allowed to let anybody in here after 6 o'clock. About that time, Mr. Frank come busting out of the door and running into Gant's unexpected, and he jumped back frightened.
So you'll see why later on. Why when Leo Frank saw Mr. Gant, he jumped back and was kind of scared. You'll see why later. But keep your mind on what's going on. This white man worked at the pencil factory. You're not supposed to let anybody in after 6. What is the black man going to do? His job. Hey, I ain't supposed to let nobody in past 6 o'clock. Right at that time, Leo Frank comes out, and let's see what Mr. Gant says.
Gant says, I got a pair of old shoes upstairs. Have you any objection to my getting them? Frank says, I don't think they are up there. I think I saw the boy sweep some up in the trash the other day.
So automatically you got to answer. Automatically. I don't think they up there. I think I saw one of the Negroes, because they called us boy. If those of y'all who are watching, we were called boy. Pejorative term for a black man with a family and kids, to call him a boy. So he said, I think one of the boys swept them up the other day. Go ahead.
Mr. Gant asked him what sort they were, and Mr. Frank said, tans.
So Mr. Gant, and you'll see why this interaction is not your normal white person interaction. He said, he swept them up? What kind of shoes did he sweep up? Oh, there was tan ones. Watch what Gant says.
Gant says, well, I had a pair of black ones too.
That dude said, nah, I had black ones too. I had 2 pairs of shoes. So if they swept up one, all right, cool. But I did have another pair. Go ahead.
Frank says, I don't know. And he dropped his head down just so. Then he raised his head and says, Newt, go with him and stay with him and help him find them. And I went up there with Mr. Gant and found them in the shipping room. 2 pair.
1 pair.
2 pair.
1 pair?
2 pair.
2 pair.
The tan and the black ones.
Already.
Lies.
He's a liar. Already. His character is in question because he's a liar. He said he saw one of the boys sweep them up and throw them away. He said he saw that.
The reason why he did not want him to come in and look for them. So he was trying to create excuses, because that's what somebody does who has a guilty conscience. He noticed he was nervous. He said, oh, go out for an hour and a half, enjoy yourself. This is the security guard.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you say, no, you know what? Hey, listen, I tell you what, you come do some rounds, patrol around, make sure everything's safe. That's what you say to the security guard. But if you need to cover something up, Nah, just go out and just go out. Just go out, do your thing. Don't worry about it. Then all of a sudden, the dude just happens to show up looking for his shoes. Because back then, it's not like you can go to Walmart for $6 and buy some shoes. Shoes was important. They used to take shoes back in the day and get them resold. Like in the military, your boots, after you phase the boot camp, they go and they resole your boots because they can't afford to just get everybody new boots. Shoes were very valuable. So he's like, what are you talking about? Let me look for my shoes. Lies. And as we go on and we continue, it shows that this guy, Leo Frank, who is the ADL, was formed because they said he was unjustly accused and convicted. That's a lie. They did not look at this. They did not, and they try to get us to just try to glaze over it. Now, when you can go and look at the archives like Officer Matthew is doing and bring it out, you can see for yourself and recreate the trial and prove that this guy is a damn convicted murderer and rapist of a child. And this is how the ADL was formed. And you want to believe the Anti-Defamation League? When he tries to blame, as you're going to bring out, 2 black men in 1913. You want to know why? He said, man, they ain't going to listen to these niggas. These guys? And he was a powerful Jewish guy. By the way, he was the head of a debate team in college. He was the Atlanta chapter of a local lodge. He was very prominent. He had a lot of power and position and entitlement, this guy did. These brothers are janitors. They just trying to survive. In 1913, being black in America. This dude is the ADL, the origin of the ADL is based upon lies and deception. And there's the first lie that was proven in a court of law that he lied. That's a sworn statement. Go ahead, Osman.
Yep. Mr. Frank phoned me that night about an hour after he left. It was some time after 7 o'clock. He says, how is everything? And I says, everything is all right so far as I know. And he says, goodbye.
So wait a minute. Okay. The guy's a security guard. He tried to clock in early. You didn't let him. His normal time was 5 o'clock. You said 6. Okay. So once he gets there, somebody tries to come get something. You don't want them to go get it, so you lie. But they go get it anyway, and they found their 2 pairs of shoes. Then after you leave, an hour or so after, you calling to see if everything is okay. Why? Is everything okay? Yeah, as far as I know. All right, goodbye. What? What does that tell you? He's checking on something. He's trying to see, did you find anything? Did anything happen? Was there any sort of movement? Like, no. I mean, I'm here every day. I mean, it's the same old pencil factory as it always is. Read on.
No, he did not ask about Gant. Yes, that is the first time he ever phoned to me on Saturday night.
The very first time that he ever did. Why are you acting so out of character? I come to work, the doors are locked. The doors are never locked. You come busting out your office, you never do that. You tell me to not clock in at 4, but to come back an hour and a half later, and for me to go have a good time and come back an hour and a half later. Then when I do come back and try to clock in at the correct time, you say don't do it. You clocked in for me. Then after you clocked in for me, you lied to another white man that I saw. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you call an hour and some change later to check on me when you've never done that before? Why are you acting so strange, Mr.
And
Frank?
think about that. Well, he lied in front of the white dude and the night watchman. So when he goes upstairs and they find his shoes, now the brother's like, yo, this cracker lying right now to me. And what he's thinking in his mind, yo, this dude about to set my ass up. This is what I be thinking. So y'all got to see this. These are court records, and really, I wish we could go through the whole. What time is it? Is it past 10 yet? Oh, okay. Keep going, man. Keep going.
Hey, what real quick? It said the night watch. The dude had the job for 3 weeks.
Right.
Why you didn't call and check on me the first week to see if I got it together? The second week to see if I'm screwing up. You called week 3. I just started the job, so it's a lot of stuff I don't know. Why you didn't call me to kind of follow up? Hey man, I know you just started, Mr. Watch, but do you need anything? How's everything going? You didn't call first or second week.
Nope.
Right.
I just want the fact that Newt Lee's testimony is so important because he shows how out of place everything was at that time. Everything was out of place. Remember, he was working there 3 weeks.
Hey, let's be mindful. I have to set the stage real quick. The jury that found Leo Frank to be guilty of murder and rape was 12 white men. If there was any evidence that either black men was, they would have hung them quick. This ain't 2013. This is 1913. For them to, in the Deep South, to literally say and prove that both black men had nothing to do with it, that shows you how much of a slam dunk case this is. And what I'm saying is that Alan Greensplack, whatever the hell his name is, can go on one of the largest black shows that sold throughout millions of listeners on the Breakfast Club and lie openly, and Negroes believe that crap. This, I'm telling you, the dangerous, and the ADL, the same spirit, because remember, this guy, Leo Frank, was a member of the Bureau Birthright. That's who formed the ADL. He was the president, the chapter of the local Atlanta chapter. So they have an inception of lies, and the same lying spirit is on Jonathan Greensplatt as it was on Leo Frank. They have the same spirit. It's the same organization. Okay, carry on, Officer Matt.
No problem. Next one.
There is a light on the street floor just after you get in the entrance to the building. The light is right up here where the partitioner comes across. Mr. Frank told me when I first went there, keep the light burning bright so the officers can see it when they pass by. It wasn't burning that day at all.
I wonder why. Why is everything so different today? Next page. Why is everything so different today? I'm as a security man, I would be concerned. I would really be concerned. Like, what was going on? Go ahead.
I lit it at 6 o'clock myself. On Saturdays, I always lit it, but weekdays, it would always be lit when I got there. On Saturdays, I always got there at 5 o'clock. This Saturday, he got me there an hour earlier and let me off later. There is a light in the basement down there at the foot of the ladder. He told me keep that burning all the time. It had two little chains to turn on and turn off the gas. When I got there on making my rounds at 7 p.m. on the 26th of April, it was burning just as low as you could turn it, like a lightning bug.
So, this is a black man. You got to compare it to something. So watch what happens next on his daily rounds or on this particular Saturday when everything was different. Go ahead.
I left this Saturday morning burning bright. I made my rounds regularly every half hour Saturday night. I punched out the hour and punched on the half, and I made all my punches. The elevator doors on the street floor and office floor were closed when I got there on Saturday. They were fastened down just like we fastened them down every other night. When 3 o'clock came, I went down the basement, and when I went down and got ready to come back, I discovered the body there.
So when he made his rounds that day, that Saturday, the same Saturday where Leo Frank was acting all weird and started calling right after his shift started to see if everything was all right, when the light wasn't on that was supposed to be on, when the doors were locked that wasn't supposed to be locked, when he lied to a white man in front of his face. Oh, well, now he finds a body? Read.
I went down to the toilet, and when I got through, I looked up. I looked at the dustbin back to the door to see how the door was, and it being dark, I picked up my lantern and went there, and I saw something laying there, which I thought some of the boys had put there to scare me. Then I walked a little piece towards it, and I seen what it was, and I got out of there.
You want to know why? Because he was a black man in 1913 that just walked across a dead body. Soon as he saw it, he didn't even walk up to it. He saw legs and he saw a body. He didn't see a face. He didn't see anything like that. He saw legs and he saw a body and immediately ran out of there. And let's see what happened.
I got up the ladder and called up police station.
So as soon as he saw the body, he called the police, like a security man is supposed to do.
Exactly.
I'll tell you one thing. This report was, from a security perspective, he wrote the facts. Yep. This report right here alone hung this dude.
Jim Conley's, oh my God, that one is the one. That one is the one. We just got to walk you through it from the beginning to show you, okay, this is what happened to this brother while he was on his shift. The night watchman came across the body. When the night watchman came across the body, he went upstairs and called the police. Go ahead.
It was after 3 o'clock. I carried the officers down where I found the body. I tried to get Mr. Frank on the telephone and was still trying when the officers came. I guess I was trying about 8 minutes. I saw Mr. Frank Sunday morning at about 7 or 8 o'clock. He was coming in the office. He looked down on the floor and never spoke to me. He dropped his head right down this way. Mr. Frank was there.
So now,
couldn't even look him in the eyes.
Couldn't even. Oh, Cap, this dude, he couldn't look nobody in the eye. He could not look nobody in the eye. Now watch this. Is that page 10? Go to page 10. Go to page 10.
Hey, y'all keep in mind that we next week, all praises the Passover. When we come back, we're going to continue on with this case. We're going to continue on this case and show you the facts, because when you come out and you say that with the ADL and you say that they're against defamation, and then you try to accuse and associate the Hebrew Israelites with the death of in a grocery store, right? Of two.
Yes. Yep.
And then you try to say that a Hebrew Israelite, black Hebrew Israelite, did a hate crime with a pellet gun against a Jewish man, his father, and you lie. You lie like that. And then you lie on the fact that Mr. Leo Frank was falsely accused and falsely convicted. You say that. Now when we take your statement, we're going to the court records of the state of Georgia, which you can go look at yourself, and you can clearly see why 12 white men in the Deep South in 1913 let 2 black men off the hook. Yep. Because there's no way they could find them guilty, because like Officer Micah said, this is a watchman report. This is a watchman report that's saying, look, I saw the body. First thing I was trained to do, I got to call the police. If you found a dead doggone dog, shit, I'm calling the police. Something's going on. Something's happening. Then you call your boss. 8 minutes? Imagine he's. Let me try it again. 8 minutes? And why he ain't picking up the phone?
And we don't have time to get like in depth in it, because the court documents, they reveal a lot. It took the police 2 minutes to get there. From the police station to the pencil factory, it took them 2 minutes to get there. So right after he called the police and said he found a body, 2 minutes later, the police was there. 2 to 3 minutes later, the police was there. For 5 to 6 minutes, he couldn't get Mr. Frank on the phone while the police were there. Wow. So the police had been there about 5 minutes, and he still couldn't get him on the phone. You got page 10?
In that document, it said he couldn't look him in his eye, right? Sirach 19 and 26, just real quick.
The book of Sirach, chapter 19 and verse 26. There is a wicked man that hangeth down his head sadly, but inwardly he is full of deceit.
Leo Frank.
Hey,
that's it.
Watch how much that scripture comes to life right now. Watch. I'm telling you, watch how fast this come to life. I would have. Right there at the top, I would have.
I would have gone further if I hadn't discovered the body. When I saw the body, the closest I ever got to it was about 6 feet. I was holding my lantern in my hand. I just saw the feet. When I first saw it, I was about 10 feet from it. As to how far the body was from where I was sitting in the closet, it was not less than 10 feet and not more than 30.
Oh, stop, real quick. I got to say something. Also, Mike, you bring up a good point. As a black man, this is an older black man. What type of jobs do you think he has worked his whole life? He's not been a CEO. He has not been a banker, an accountant. He's been a janitor. He's been a security guard. For him to make no, I was 10 feet. I was 6 feet. That means he is used to doing his job. Nope, I've been in another company before. They try to blame me for that. Yep. I'll make sure I do everything right. This is a secure. I'm telling you, this guy is. God, it's amazing.
He's thorough. That brother Newt Lee is thorough. Go ahead, keep reading.
I stood and looked at it to see whether or not it was a natural body.
Because he was standing so far away and it was so dark down there, his lantern, he could only see but so far. He knew that it was a body, but he didn't know the details of it. Go ahead.
When I first got there, I didn't think it was a white woman because her face was so dirty and her hair was so crinkled and there was white spots on her face. When the police came back upstairs, they said it was a white girl. I think I reported to the police that it was a white woman.
So he didn't know. And here's the reason why he didn't know. Mary Fagan, for 14, was very advanced in her body. They say it. Her mother said it. The women that work with her say it. She didn't look 14, which probably played a role in the whoremonger's decision to try to pursue her. But she was a kid. She was just big for her age. Go ahead.
She was laying on her back with her face turned kinder to one side. I could see her forehead. I saw a little blood on the side of her head that was turned next to me. The blood was on the right side of her head. I'm sure she was laying on her back. Mr. Frank had told me if anything serious happened to call up the police, and if anything like fire, to call up fire department.
That man did his job.
He did his damn job.
Anything happened, Mr. Frank said call the police. And call the police he did. Would a guilty man call the police on himself? Come on now. Read.
I already knew the number of the station house.
You want to know why?
3 weeks.
He memorized it. He did his job. Go ahead.
I did say at the coroner's inquest that that it took Mr. Frank longer to put the tape on this time than it did before. I did not say it took twice as long as the coroner's inquest because they didn't ask me. I didn't pay any attention to him the first time he put the tape on. The reason the last time I know it took him longer because I held the lever and had to move it backwards and forwards. When I was in the basement, one of the policemen read the note that they found.
Now listen. One of the policemen read the note that they found. There was a note found down there with the body. Now remember, he was told to come in at 4. Nah, don't come in at 4. Go have some fun. You're acting weird. The doors are locked. You're busting out your office. I can't come in. You're lying to this white man over here. There's a 2-hour space where you could have done anything, and I didn't know about it. Then you called me up later to see if anything happened at the job, which you've never done before. You're acting all kinds of weird. You call immediately, but then when I call you, you don't answer. This is 1913. Phones are loud. You're waking up in the middle of the night and you hear that damn phone go off. Go ahead.
They read these words. The tall, black, slim Negro did this. He would try to lay it on the night. And when they got the word night, I said they must be trying to put it off on me.
See how smart this brother was?
Sharp, boy.
See how smart this brother was? This brother said, night. I'm the night watchman. Mm-hmm. They going to try to pin this off on me. Go ahead.
I didn't say, boss, that's me.
Next. You see that? They had a note down there that said the tall black Negro did this. He's going to try to put it on the night. Now, why would a note be there? That means that possibly, maybe there was a witness to the crime and they knew exactly what happened. Well, if that was a witness to the crime, where's the witness at? Won't that witness step forward? I mean, if it was a tall black man, all we got to do is arrest him and put you into the box. You rat on him, case closed. But did it happen like this? I want the next page. Let me see. Right where the mouse is. Mr. Frank. When Mr. Frank.
When Mr. Frank came out rubbing his hands, he came out of his inner office into the outer office, and from there in front of the clock. I did not go down in the basement as far as the boilers during the night, except when I discovered the body. The officers talked to me the whole time. I didn't get to sleep hardly, day or night. Just the time I would get ready to go to sleep, here they was after me. Then I would go back to my cell, stay a while, and then another would come in and get me.
So this right here, he's going to go into how they sleep deprivated him. They deprived this man of sleep. But did you notice something? He was in a cell. Black man found a body of a white girl. He's in jail. He's the one in jail. Jump down. Down. We knocked.
Real quick, I want to share something. So, see how it says L.S. Dobbs? It says, I am a police sergeant. When it says sworn for the state, that's the state of Georgia, these are sworn statements. Later on, we're going to find out that Leo Frank refused to write a sworn statement. It was an unsworn statement. And this is one of the reasons why he got, I'm not justifying, the reason why he got mob justice is because the white people are like, wait a minute. Okay, we want to believe you. We want to believe that the nigger did it. But why would you're Jewish, you're prominent, why wouldn't you just put your record on statement and you have a sworn statement? I didn't do it because he was guilty. And when they saw that, they said, wait a minute, this guy, we want to blame the niggers, but this guy raped a 14-year-old Southern belle, then murdered her and tried to cover that up. That's one thing they don't like when you mess with the little white girls. They don't care who you are. And this is, I'm telling you, we are going to go through this. We're kind of rushing now, but we're going to go through the next several shows. We want to show you that Alan Greenblatt is a damn liar. The ADL from the history is built on lies. They defame people's character. The ADL was supposed to be formed out of this whole trial, right? Out of a lie they formed, hence the name of the show. They formed out of a lie. In 2022 or 23, whenever he was on the show, still lying. 115 years later, still lying. Go ahead.
Yep. So he's a police sergeant, L.S. Dobbs. So this is a policeman, and he's walking through what happened when he got to the crime scene. Go ahead.
I'm a sergeant.
No, we knocked. Right there.
We knocked on the door, and in about 2 minutes, the Negro came down the steps and opened up the door and said there was a woman murdered in the basement. We went through a subtle hole, a small trap door the Negro led. The way back in the basement to a partition on the left leading from the elevator. The basement is about 20 feet wide. The Negro led the way back about 150 feet, and we found the body. The girl was laying on her face, not directly laying on her stomach, with the left side on the ground, the right side up just a little. We couldn't tell by looking at her whether she was white or black, only by her golden colored hair. They turned her over, and her face was full of dirt and dust.
So stop right there. Scroll down. Scroll. All right, go to page 20. So Yep. Go to page 20. So the reason why they couldn't tell whether she was white or black, she had dirt all over her face because she was dragged on a dirt floor in the basement. Now we're going to get to how all of that transpired later, but I want to show y'all how automatically the blame was getting pushed toward the black man. Automatically. Let me see.
So real quick, Officer Matt. So we have the first brother that is being blamed is the night watchman. What's his name again? I forgot his name.
Newt Lee.
Newt Lee. Now, so Newt Lee is the guy. Remember, he was trained. If you see something, you say something. Okay. Well, I need to keep this job. I'm gonna memorize all the firehouse number, the police station. He saw the body immediately. Went upstairs, called the police. They were there within 2 minutes. He's trying to call Mr. Frank. So he's doing his job. He's talking just like a cop. He's like, I was 6 feet. Now look how the cop's speaking. Similar verbiage. That's why he had credibility with these cops, because he was exonerated. They wanted to try to find blame with him. Later on, I don't know if we'll be able to get to Officer Matt. We're going to bring in Jim Conley next. Can we have time for that? Or we gonna probably
Okay. Not this show. I could tell you that right now.
All right, so just to be clear, what are we doing? We're going into the court records, sworn statements, which are sworn, and I think it's a stenographer that entered this in. All of this is records that you can research for yourself. Yep. We're proving to you, Officer Matthews proving to you that Leo Frank is a liar, a convicted murderer and rapist. And the media today will make it seem like, when you read Wikipedia, they make it seem like go back to Wikipedia real quick. Pull up the article Officer Michael read at the end of the article. We're going to the court case to prove with statements that are sworn, this guy is unequivocally found guilty at the local level, at the state level, and the national level. And they will have us believe, because of who he was, a Jewish man, that they write some crap like this. And this is why black people need to wake the hell up. Read that.
Today, the consensus of researchers is that Frank was...
Stop. This is a bold, it just is like, what's that word? When they want to hypnotize you. The consensus of researchers, who are these researchers? Kindergartners? These researchers, they can go to the same thing we're going to. So they said all that, and it's saying today's consensus of research is that Frank was wrongfully convicted. So you telling me that the researchers are smarter than the Supreme Court justices? They're smarter than the Georgia justices? There was over 700 pages of court files, 1 month of a trial. And this guy, Green Black, can come on and say what he said, and you Negroes believe that? This is why the scriptures say, never trust your enemy. Just like iron rusteth, so does his wickedness. Get that scripture real quick.
Yes, sir.
It's already 11:09. Officer Matt is just getting warmed up. But I'm going to read the scripture. We're going to go back. We're not doing kingdom music. We're not doing Laura Back Attack. We're going to go right to 11:30. When we come back from Passover, we're going to dig back in this trial, okay, and share this, man. This guy, Green Black, is a bold-faced liar. He's not telling you the truth. He's trying to sully and slander and defame Israel United in Christ in the 12 tribes in the Israelites, and by labeling us Black Hebrew Israelites. The name ADL means Anti-Defamation. We are proving to you that he's defamed us. Proving without a shadow of a doubt. You're going to associate a murder and then say Black Hebrew Israelites, with knowing the damage that could do to our reputation. We have done nothing of that. That's defaming. That's slander. That's lying. We show how evil these people are. And what we're saying is upright. Go ahead.
The book of Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy.
Here's the problem. The problem with Christianity is they gave us a white Jesus, they gave us a white God, and they said that Jesus loves you. Jesus, the one they gave you, hates your black ass, and he wants to bury you under the jail. Right. And that brother, the janitor, knew that. He said, I better make sure my stuff is on point, because this is the advantage they had in 1913. A brother knew who he was. Yo, You knew who you was. Now you think because the water fountain signs is no longer there, you can eat at Woolworth or you can eat at a IHOP and nobody say nothing. Heck, you can even walk in front of you can even cut in front of a white man in a movie theater. Nobody might not say nothing to you. But you don't understand that you are hated. Systematic, covert, and overt racism is set up to keep you in the jail, school, the prison pipeline, and you just don't get it yet. It's 2023, and they're lying on us, and you still asleep. Read on.
For like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness.
So they start off smooth, and no matter what, at the end of the day, they are going to rust. They are going to show their wickedness. And no matter how much, what he says, Alan Granspeth says, look, they have the right to believe what they want, but as soon as they start murdering innocent people, and then he goes on to the 2 lies. And then before he came to that about the ADL, he lied about Leo Frank. He was not wrongfully accused. He was accused justly because the preponderance of evidence led towards his conviction. He was not convicted wrong. What happened is the mob justice that he was given by the Southern whites is because they were upset that he didn't get the death penalty. Okay? Other than that, he was rightfully convicted because he raped and murdered a white teenage minor. And then you go to Wikipedia and they put an image of a brother who was cleared and exonerated by a group of 12 white jurors, white men in 1913. Y'all got to see this, man. I repeated myself 3 times about the same thing. Y'all have to see who we are and what we're living in. Good, Officer Matt. We got about 20 more minutes.
There's a point that I want you to see.
Could you imagine that brother standing in the basement over the body of a white girl, and you got 2 police right here? You imagine the spirit that brother had to have on him.
When he saw the note, he knew what it was.
Yes. I don't know about y'all. If I go on the roof, if I'm by myself at the job, and I'm in the room with 2 white women by myself, I get nervous. I start looking for something to back up what I make sure I'm around the camera. Yep. You got to be careful. All it takes is one damn lie. You brothers, we got to be mindful of who we are, bro. That's why you brothers just be mindful. This is 2023. We still can be strung up like this. If one little lie could change your life, so just be mindful.
Look at all of the major black massacres at the hands of white men. They were all due to white women.
Yep.
All of them. Rosewood.
Yep. Right.
They claimed somebody raped a white woman. Emmett Till, they claimed he whistled at a white woman. Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Somebody touched a white woman and they dropped napalm on an entire black city. Most of the black massacres that happened in this country, the primary ignition from all of that stuff was somebody did something to a white woman.
Karen.
Somebody did something to her. I want you to go to that page. Now there's a spot that I want you to see because it's very important when we go to the next page. There was some question right there where the mouse is.
Yes, sir. There was some question about Mr. Frank if he knew the girl. And I think he replied that he didn't know whether he did or not, but that he could tell whether she worked at the factory by looking at his payroll book.
So remember that. He said he didn't know Mary. He didn't know. But he could tell whether or not she did by the payroll book. Because what was she doing? She was going to get her last check.
Mm-hmm.
We went. Right there.
We went into Mr. Frank's office. He went up to the safe, turned the combination, opened the safe, took out his time book, laid the book down on the table, ran his finger down until he came to the name Mary Fagan and said, yes, Mary Fagan worked here. She was here yesterday.
So wait a minute. She was there yesterday. The day that he was acting all weird. The day that everything was out of place. The same one that you said, I don't know if she worked here or not, but didn't she come to you to get her last check? You the one that gives out the checks. You the one that gives out the money. She came to get money from you. Her name is Mary Fagan. You have to look at her face, look at her name in the room. What's your name? Mary Fagan? Okay. Oh, yeah, we owe you $1.80. Here you go. You would know that. But how is it that the very next day you have no idea whether she worked there or not? She went there to get her pay.
He said, I will tell you about the exact times she left here. Exact time she left here. My stenographer left about 12 o'clock, and a few minutes after she left, the office boy left, and Mary came in and gathered money and left.
So wait a minute. I want y'all to pay attention to time. Black people, we got to start paying attention to time, because this black man paid attention to time. He said the stenographer left about 12 o'clock. What time did Mary leave her house? 11:45. What time did she run into her friend? About 11:50. What time did her friend say that he was gone from her view? About 7 minutes after 12. So the stenographer left about 12 o'clock. A few minutes after the stenographer left, the office boy left. So it was just Mary and Leo. She came to get her check. It was just Mary and Leo. She came to get her check. Keep that in mind. Go ahead.
He said she got $1.80, and he asked whether anybody had found the envelope that the money was in. Frank still seemed to be nervous like the first time I seen him.
Why would he ask about the envelope? Maybe because he touched it right after he tried to make a pass at him, or before, or something was going on with that envelope. Go to the next page. I think it's 31.
Why he didn't say she works here? He said she worked here.
Yeah.
He already,
He already knew.
killed her. You know?
He already knew.
They wanted him.
Now, like I said, if we had time, I would go through every single page, because I did.
This dude killed
I went through every single page. Yeah, I had time. Greenblatt said that, some of my forefathers and some of my family members committed murders. So, being the investigative people that we are, I got a little nosy and started digging into his people. Come to find out, his people were some devious, dirty people. Go ahead.
Mr. Frank had told me that he didn't think Newt Lee had told all he knew about the murder.
Whoa. Really? Mr. Frank told that to the police. This is the police now. The police is on the stand. He said, Frank told me he didn't think Newt Lee had said everything that he knew about the murder. Go ahead. And this is why. Go back one page, I believe it is. Just go back one page.
So to get the spotlight off yourself, you try to insinuate that the black watchman, the brother, is not telling the truth. That is how the ADL got started, off of men with character like Leo Frank.
Go back another page. I want y'all to see something. I thought that I had it. Go down. It's toward the bottom of the page. All right, never mind. Go back to page 31. There was a conversation had between Newt Lee and Leo Frank about what the things that had transpired. While Leo Frank was talking to Newt Lee was handcuffed to a chair. And Frank said, did you tell them everything that you knew?
Right. Hold on. Let me back up. So what happened is this.
Yeah.
What happened is the cops was slick. They got a Newt Lee, the watchman, and Leo Frank when they thought that they was alone. Now the brother's just trying to keep his job and stay alive. Leo Frank has got everything to lose. He remember, he's the executive. He's one of the managers at the pencil factory. He makes big money. He's also the local president of the. Real quick. Get me the article I gave you about the Brew birthright, something like that.
Bernard Burt.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to show y'all. Listen, this Jewish power structure runs deep. So we're going to show you the origin of this real quick. I want to show you a timeline. You got that, Gabe? Okay. So where did the ADL come from? The ADL. Let me see that real quick. I don't think that's it, is it? I'm looking for the word. Okay. Now, so let's just look real quick. And by the way, we're going to do multiple shows on this. Officer Matt is going to continue to expound it. I invite all of you go to the Georgia Archives. Start looking at the case for yourselves. When we go over, you can, okay, I see what he's saying. Because again, we have to destroy the lie that this guy said about the Hebrew Israelites on live Breakfast Club. And also he's lying about the history of Leo Frank. Lying. So this is B apostrophe NAI, B apostrophe RITH. That is the organization that actually created or catapulted into the ADL. There's a timeline, I believe. I know I sent it to you, Gabe. Should be a timeline. Okay, you gotta hang on a sec. I gotta get this real quick. There's a timeline that goes to. Hang on, I'm gonna send it again. Okay. Maybe I didn't send it to you.
So while Cap is looking for that, I was doing a little bit of more research about these gangsters. And guess what famous gangster is Jewish? Bugsy Siegel. And guess what? One of his best friends was one of the primary donators to the ADL. Y'all got to look at this. The ADL, they're not the Anti-Defamation League. There's some Jewish gangsters. They're another wing of the Jewish Defense League, which the JDL is a bunch of Jewish gangsters.
So now we're going to show you a timeline. I still can't pronounce. Mickey, how do you pronounce that again?
That's B'nai B'rith.
The B'nai B'rith is it's a so-called Hebrew Yiddish word that they created. But this is the inception. So I'm going to track the timeline to show you how all of the ADL, this organization, are all linked to what happens in Israel right now. Everything is linked together. So go to 1880. Yes. I'm sorry. Scroll down. Let's scroll for the beginning again. I know you did the right thing, but I want to see something real quick. Slowly, let's slow down. Okay. 1851. Read that. Mickey, you read that because you good at pronouncing that.
B'nai B'rith intercedes with U.S. Secretary of State Daniel Webster, Senator Henry Clay, and other American leaders to speak out against Switzerland's what is that? Discrimination against Jewish residents.
So now you're going to find that the B'nai B'rith, they had political affiliation with the U.S. Representative Secretary of Defense to help Jewish people in other countries. Why then isn't the ADL working to fight the discrimination that's going on with the Palestinians right now over there in the land of Israel, if they're truly for everybody, not just Jewish folks, right? Now scroll down to a little bit more. Okay. 1880. Go to that. 1888. This is very important. I'm going to read it twice because I'm not going to say it. Read it. So, B'nai B'rith founds the Jerusalem Lodge, the first public Hebrew-speaking organization in what was to become the state of Israel. Because in 1888, who was over there in Israel? It was not the Khazars. That was set up in 1948. Bishop showed a tape of people in the land of Israel in Jerusalem walking around. They were brown people. Here's an old real tape. The so-called white man did not get literally implanted in there, meaning implanted as in not like a dental implant, but they were brought into the land officially in 1948. During this time, they started the infiltration then. I want you to see that all of this is created and working to ADL. All of them, they all work together. They all work together. Now, scroll down. 1900s, I want you, okay, now, so go to 1912 real quick.
At B'nai B'rith, urging U.S. President William Howard Taft rescinds an important diplomatic treaty with Russia.
Stop. This is why listen good. This is why the ADL has power, because they can help shape and mold policy. This, it says the B'nai B'rith urging William Howard Taft to rescind a diplomatic treaty. They got him to rescind the treaty because it prohibited American Jews from traveling to that country. Do you see the power they have? Now watch 1913. This is where we come. This is the whole trial Officer Matthews going over right now. Watch this.
After an outpouring of strident anti-Semitism at the Georgia murder trial.
We're reading about it right now. The Georgia murder trial, which Leo Frank was found guilty of raping and murdering a teenage white girl. Read on.
B'nai B'rith, member of factory supervisor Leo Frank.
Stop. What they're not telling you is that Leo Frank was the president of the Atlanta chapter of the B'nai B'rith. So they're showing you they started the whole thing of the ADL because what their chapter member, they're trying to cover for him. They don't say he was guilty of it, that it made to the Supreme Court, and the appeal that went to the Supreme, they still found him guilty in life in prison. See how they fluff stuff up? This is their regular website. After the outpour of strident anti-Semitism at the Georgia murder trial of B'nai B'rith member in factory, no, he wasn't just a member. He was the president of the Atlanta chapter. Atlanta was a big chapter. He was the president of the chapter. And after this damn demon was convicted, he got reelected as the president the next year. The next year, you can read about it. Read on.
B'nai B'rith organizes its anti-defamation league to combat derisive stereotypes in film, literature, and on the stage.
So my question is, so they're claiming anti-Semitism, meaning that when Jewish people, but a Jewish person murdered and raped a girl that he was in charge as the supervisor. He was the head of the B'nai B'rith chapter with 500 members in Atlanta. And they're saying that they organized the ADL out of that because of what happened to him. The whole thing was born in lies. And the thing about it is, thank the Lord that now there's public records where you can go and actually, if you take the time, like Officer Matthews doing, like I've done, like all of you should do, we can look at what the janitor, the night watchman said. We can look at what James Conley said. We can look at what some of the girls who testified that Mr. Leo Frank flirted with them and made them feel uncomfortable. We can show you the testimony where 12 white jurors, all white jurors, did not find either black men guilty, but found this man guilty in a time that was 110 years ago when black men were still under Jim Crow and crazy amounts of racism, discrimination, and segregation, and they still got off. I'm showing you. And then on their website today, on this site, it should read like this. It should say, Leo Frank, the president of the Atlanta chapter of the B'nai B'rith member, was found guilty of committing murder and rape of a teenage girl. They'll never put that.
Right.
And now when you go to Wikipedia, they'll say, most scholars concur that he was convicted falsely. You see the Supreme Court denied his appeal. The one technicality they found in the trial, they said, all right, well, we'll give him a bone. We'll give him life in prison, which is the next worst, severest penalty. So his big Jewish lawyers came in and tried to appeal everything. They threw money at it. They threw all of that. They still lost because some things you can't argue. If it had been a black girl, whatever, throw it out. a little Chinese girl, whatever. It's a white girl, a Southern belle. You got to follow the rules, buddy. And that's what happened.
How is it that in 1913, the ADL is to combat divisive stereotypes in film, literature, and on stage, but there were minstrel shows, there was cartoons that was depicting black people as mammies and slaves and all this, that, and the third, and didn't Jewish people found Hollywood?
Hey, Officer Matt, 2 years later, in 1915, the one movie that sparked the Ku Klux Klan was made. Birth of a Nation, 1915.
And those were stereotypes in those movies. Why didn't the ADL do that for us? Because y'all a bunch of liars. Y'all are a bunch of liars and a bunch of hypocrites. Y'all are the devil the Bible speaks of.
Hey, real quick, before we end the show tonight, and Officer Matt, we have a lot more to go. We're going to go after Passover. We're going to keep digging into the actual again, there's two types. There are sworn testimonies that are on record, and then the only person in the whole Leo Frank trial is himself, Leo Frank. He wrote an unsworn testimony. I mean, he would not swear to his statement, and that's a legal loophole that they're allowed to do, and the prosecutors allowed that because under law you could do that. Now, go back to the Breakfast Club. We're going to show you the lie one more time. Like Bishop Nathaniel say, look. Sit down with Bishop Nathaniel. Sit down. Let's have an open, just like Bishop said. Can we play that when we close out? Pull up the video where Bishop does that. We're gonna show you. You are listen, Mister. You're the president of the ADL, sir. You are a liar. You lied in front of millions of people. We've got the proof, the court records. You can fool a lot of us, but you can't fool all of us, sir. Okay? Play.
United States. It was founded in 1913 after a Jewish man was lynched. He'd been falsely accused of a crime, wrongly convicted, and ultimately...
Stop. Again. So, falsely accused? No. He was accused because the preponderance of evidence led towards his guilt. He was found guilty of murder and raping of a teenage girl. He appealed it to the Georgia state court. The state court said, nope, you're guilty. His Jewish lawyers, right? I'm not saying that wrong. They appealed to the national court or the Supreme Court. They upheld his conviction with the technicality saying you get life in prison and not murder. Because of that, the whites of the South who did murder, and we don't condone mob murder. We don't condone that. The point is that he was convicted. This guy, listen, the ADL, if you have any shred of morality, he should be fired. This guy should be fired from his job. He should have to, remember what he did to Kyrie? He should have 5 things he got to do to black people. He should have conditions. He should have to pay $250,000 to black college funds. He should have to pay, to Israel United in Christ. To help with community cleanups that we do, things to help clean up our communities. He should have to pay those things. He should be fired. He should be anything you could parry. This guy should be put through the ringer because he lied publicly.
He should sit through classes.
Yes.
And be re-educated on true Israelite history. Just like they make, Kyrie and Nick Cannon, they got to go be re-educated in Holocaust history.
Right.
Y'all should be re-educated in the transatlantic slave history, in the sub-Saharan slave history,
right?
And the history after 70 AD. Y'all should be re-educated by us.
Let me speak this. Right. Let me just say this. Because let me just say this. I have met some Jewish people, and you know what? Some of them are all right. They're likable people. Those of you in the Jewish community who know that this guy's a doggone liar, you believe in the Torah. Why don't you come together and get this guy fired? He's misrepresenting y'all. Some of y'all are all right. Now, we disagree in the Bible. We know that we are the Israelites. You're Jewish. We are the 12 tribes of Israel. It's our fault we were cast into slavery. We are the ones who have records of the slave ships. We're the ones who's suffering at the bottom. The reality is this. This guy's, if you claim to be of the Torah, you claim to be the real Jews, this guy's lying. He's breaking the Torah. Why don't you come together and get this? He misrepresents you. You're the righteous ones. He's misrepresenting you. This guy this is a public outcry. He should be fired. Anti-defamation, we're proving to you he's defaming the so-called black Hebrew Israelites, which he's labeling us in that. He's slandering us. We're proving that the lie he said about Leo Frank, that's a lie. He was not accused falsely. He was accused rightly. He was convicted, and at all levels of the local, state, and national or Supreme Court upheld his conviction. A preponderance of evidence clearly stated it was an all-white juror of 12 men, black men who could have been hung in any other, got exonerated. Why? Because there's over 700 pages to prove that this guy was guilty. So what we're showing is, listen, we don't have nothing personal against Jewish people, nothing personal, but when you go and you lie and try to associate black Hebrew Israelites, which we're not black Hebrew Israelites, I'm beige, he a little darker braids, this brother fudge, this brother a little lighter fudge. We are the Israelites, and we came here on slave ships, and we know it's our fault. We got to get it right. That's why we taking care of our wives. We no more drugs. We're doing what we're supposed to do. We are trying to live the right way. But when we see something unjust like this, we're going to stand up for it. And some of you so-called you Jewish people, you try to live the right life. You know that this guy's lying. You know he's lying. You better band together, get this guy ousted out of the ADL. Okay. What I tell you to get me real quick? Yes, Breakfast Club, and we're going to close out after that.
Organization in the United States. It was founded in 1913 after a Jewish man was lynched. He had been falsely accused of a crime, wrongly convicted, and ultimately the mob tore him from his jail, and they hung him from a tree. And while the corpse was still hanging from the rope, they all gathered around, the town did. They had a barbecue underneath the body. They took pictures, and they turned the photographs into postcards.
Sounds familiar.
See, they barbecued under his body. They barbecued our bodies. We were the barbecue. And there are plenty of postcards with black faces on them, black people hanging from trees. There's music for it. I ain't never heard no Jewish person saying about strange fruit, because that wasn't strange fruit. That was a strange occurrence that happened to you. But it was normal. It was normal for black people. It was so normal that bodies that were hanging used to have their shoes taken so that they can be reused by the other black people that couldn't afford to get new shoes. They just take them off the dead corpse of one of their brothers that was hanging from a tree on their way.
Yeah, so listen. This is we didn't do the lower back attack. We didn't do Kingdom Music because we're taking our time. We're going to go more into the trial to show you clearly why he was found guilty and was upheld at all levels of the judicial system in the United States, and how he had a chance to appeal. And if he was found innocent, they would have overturned it. He was not. So we see a lie, we're going to call it, and we're going to stay on this. We're going to stay on this until y'all come out, you ADL, you Canary, you come out and you apologize publicly. And you apologize and you go through certain steps to get re-educated on who we really are as the Israelites. We are doing things like cleaning up our community. We're teaching men to get off drugs. We're teaching men to control their anger. We're teaching men that it's not okay to be fighters and brawlers. It's not okay to lie and steal. It's a good thing to be married and to become a grandfather and have a family line and to be able to support your family. These are good things that black men, unfortunately, in this society, as a whole, we're not doing because we're not keeping the commandments of God. We teach that. And to slander that's evil, and that's wrong. We're going to stand up against evil, okay? Play Bishop Nathaniel's video.
Hey, real quick, Cap.
Yes, sir.
We also showing the lies and accusations from Leo Frank was not just towards black people. When we come back, you're going to see he tried to pin it on the white man. You're going to see. This dude he was a mechanical engineer. He was by far no dummy. He knew how to manipulate situations. And he tried with all of his little might to manipulate this situation, but it just didn't work.
Yes. And he graduated from Cornell University, and he was on the debate team. So he understood strategy and how to use words. Matter of fact, when they let him testify, he testified for over 3.5 hours, and they had people like bewildered because of his vernacular, how he used words, and he tried to do people in the dance and spin them around with word games and wordplay. Bishop's video. It's late. I know y'all. It's late. We all tired.
Shalom. I'm Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ, and today I'd like to present a sit-down discussion with the Jewish community. There's a lot of controversy. There's much hatred that you have towards us. We're the prophets of the one true God. So what we'd like to do is sit down with several of your leading Jewish personalities. The rest of you just stand by. Sit back, move out the way. We want to sit down with Yitzhak Yosef, who called black people monkeys. He's number one.
לא הכל כושים מברכים, אלא צריך שיהיה כושי שאבא שלו ואימא שלו לבנים. איפה אתה תדע? אם אתה יודע, בפעם שאתה יודע, ואתה יצא להם בן קוף, יצא להם בן ככה.
Number two, we like to sit down with Jonathan Green Black of the Anti-Defamation League. You have so much to say on the Breakfast Club in alluding that we have shot and murdered people in New Jersey. We want to sit down and discuss with you to produce your cause.
And look, they're entitled to their beliefs until that justifies shooting Jewish people with pellet guns on Staten Island. Or like, this is December. 3 years ago, December 2019, 2 black Hebrew Israelites went into a kosher supermarket in Jersey City and killed 3 people because they said they weren't real Jews.
Wow.
Shot them cold dead in a kosher supermarket.
Prove what those lies you have said. We want to sit down with the SPLC, Margaret Huang, and Beeson. You also pushed the lie that we have murdered people in New Jersey, so forth and so on. We want to sit down with APOC, Howard Core, and Lillian Pincus. Also, that latest group, the Canary Mission. We want to sit down with Adam Milstein and Howard D. Sterling.
When Tony asked about Canary Mission.
Who are the people involved with them?
It's him. It's him.
Adam Milstein.
Yeah, I don't know who he hired to oversee it. Adam Milstein. He's the guy in front of him.
We need to expose the things that they're everything we believe in. We need to put them on the right.
So Adam Milstein, he funds the Israel Project and he's funding the Canary Mission website.
Yeah, which is interesting because it makes it seem as though we're a part of it, but we're not.
We'd like to sit down with all of you. If all, one for all and all for one, however you want to do it. But we will sit down with you. So don't say we're running from you, we're trying to evade you. No, we're not. Okay? Reach us, call us at 1-855-484-4842, extension 7023. Or by email, israel@israelunite.org. All right? The scriptures say, if at all possible, be at peace with all men. And that's what we endeavor to do. So, Jewish community, have a sit down with us. Let's have an open discussion publicly. All right? Shalom.
Hey, and so part of that is, again, there are Jewish people. Listen, we have different understandings of the Bible. Like for example, right? It is not in the Israelite tradition to where we had what they call meat trees, but the yarmulke and the things that that's a Jewish tradition. It's not an Israelite tradition. You have your belief. You use what they call what is that book they call they use the Talmud, right? Which is that God never told us to read that thing. That's your culture. We get that. But even within your culture, you have certain morals that you stick by. In your Torah, it tells you not to lie or bear false witness. Why are you allowing the ADL, this guy, to bear false witness? Because he's representing ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League. He represents Jewish interests, correct? Y'all need to band together. This guy needs to be fired, just like what happened to our brother Kyrie Irving. That needs those steps. He needs to have that happen to him. And if you have any shred of morality, why wouldn't you do that? So we'll see. So with that, we are Precept Upon Precept, late night. Thanks for staying with us. We come back. We are going to continue to examine the trial of Leo Frank. Remember, Leo Frank was a part of the B'nai B'rith chapter of Atlanta. He was a president of the local chapter, and he Basically, they're saying that he was falsely accused and falsely convicted. As a result of that, the Anti-Defamation League came about. All of that, the Anti-Defamation League came about with lies, okay? And now today, in this last year, the president, ironically, the president now of the ADL is still telling lies. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. We're going to keep on pushing this truth, precept upon precept, out of breath. With that, we say,
Shalom. Shalom.
What did it look like? Any talk on the thing? Commentaries?
Give alms. Hey, if y'all want to give alms to y'all local school, y'all can do so by dropping alms in the envelope in the alms box. If you want to give alms to IUIC New Orleans, you can do so via PayPal at iuic.neworleans@israelunite.org. And make sure y'all continue to give to the Booster Club. Y'all can do so at iuic.fundraising@israelunite.org.
We are not a hate group. We are not a hate group. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group. Israel United in Christ is a nonviolent Bible-based movement. We do not advocate or condone any acts of violence against any race, ethnicity, or gender. We advise that if anyone hears or knows of any plots to cause harm to anyone or to break the laws of the land, you must contact the proper authorities to bring awareness to any possible threat, as stated in Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1.
IUIC TV, where we are recreating the narrative for the black family. As the Bible says, where there's no vision, the people perish. The media have been vehicles that have conveyed destructive images of God's children, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Not only are we in the streets, but we are on the airwaves and networks, compelling our people to come back to their heritage. Tune in to IUIC TV.
Action.